What's going on, guys? It's your boy Caliber here. In this video, I wanted to take the time and kind of talk about Apex Predator and the strategy I took to get there. I know a lot of people had trouble getting to Apex Predator this season or are going to try to get Apex Predator next season, and they kind of want to get advice from somebody that is an Apex Predator and kind of see what it took for them to get there. So the first tip that I have is obviously getting a team. A team is very, very important to get an Apex Predator because communication is key in this game mode. Without communication, there is no possible way your team is going to know everything that's going on at any given time, including teams rushing from other directions, being third-partied. You're going to want a team so that you can give those call-outs to your teammates, letting them know that, hey, this team is pushing from the right. Hey, we have a team that's coming from our left, or I'm getting double-teamed over here. I need help. Without it being able to communicate, you're not going to be able to give those call outs, and your teammates are going to be clueless to whatever's going on just because they have their own thing going on, or their tunnel vision, or they got somebody shooting at them. They're not going to be able to know these things because you're not being able to give those call outs. So definitely getting a team is obvious. A lot of people know that, but definitely going to be number one on my list as far as getting to Apex Predator as fast as possible. So the next step to becoming an Apex Predator is going to be your landing. This is one of the most important parts because if you botch your landing, then you lose all those points that it took just to get into the match. And now the very next game, you have to make those points up and then some in order to progress towards Apex Predator. And the way that you do that is by dropping further away. You want to pick a location that's further away from the dropship. You want to look around to make sure a team isn't following you, and if a team is following you, you guys want to land semi together. That way, if a team does approach you, then you can kill them, get those points, and then keep going. Now the next step after you land is getting the perfect loadout. Now the approach that me and my team took to this was one close range weapon and one long range weapon, preferably a longbow. Because of how competitive ranked is, especially at the higher levels, having a long range weapon like a longbow is going to be very crucial to helping you get those long range kills and also being able to keep back and avoid being third partied. Now speaking of your inventory and loadout, the next thing you want to think about when you're in your ranked game is having a healthy mixture of ammo, heals, and throwables. You never want too many of one and not be without the other. And speaking of being without, make sure you share loot. This is where communication plays a very big important factor into becoming an Apex Predator. I can't tell you how many times throughout our games where we had to do an inventory check and see who had heals, who had batteries, who had cells, and then sharing that amongst all of us. That way we all stayed healthy, and that way we didn't get caught without being able to heal ourselves in the middle of combat. Which brings us to one of the last tips on the list, combat. This is where most people make their mistakes and end up costing them points. First thing you never want to do is chase. You never want to third party outside of the ring, and you also always want to be aware of where the circle is so that you can play circle and play positioning. Do you want to be 2 moves ahead of your enemies? That way you can avoid being gatekeep, you can avoid being damaged by the circle, you can avoid all these bad positionings. You always want to stay one step ahead, and then this is also going to allow you to get those kills because there are going to be teams that make those mistakes. There are going to be teams that don't play ahead of the game and they third party outside the circle, or they try to get positioning late in the game. This is going to allow you to pick those teams off and get those 5 kills. That's also going to maximize your points. Which leads us to the last tip and the most important tip on the list, which is the point system. In ranked, placement is priority, which is why ranked is not for everybody. Ranked can be boring, but because of how competitive it is, playing placement is one of the most guaranteed ways of getting to Apex Predator. The key is to start the game, avoid fighting unless you have to, play to top 10, play to top 5, and as you approach number 1, you get a little bit more aggressive while also putting all the other tips together. Playing the circle, getting positioning, knowing where your team is, communicating. Putting all these things together while playing placement is going to be one surefire way of getting Apex Predator next season. Now before I go, I want to reiterate that this is my strategy to get Apex Predator. You may have a different strategy, you may want to play more aggressive, but this is going to be a surefire way for someone to get Apex Predator that is having a hard time. Using this strategy, I got to Apex Predator in a little over a week. But that's going to be it for this video. If you got any other tips, leave them in the comment section down below. Leave a like on the video, subscribe, and follow me on Mixer. Alright guys, see ya.